Hello, I'm Simon Gregg, Director of the Gippsland Art Gallery, and I'm sitting in the new Annemieke Mein retrospective, A Life's Work, here at Gippsland Art Gallery. The exhibition has works from 6 decades of Annemiek's art, from the early 60s to the present day. She works with native Australian subjects, so wildlife, fauna and flora, and she looks at the natural world with the eye of a scientist. You know, she breeds insects in her studio and she does everything she can to understand the way that the insects live and their life cycles, and she brings that into her work. They're mostly wall panels with three-dimensional elements, so it's like birds, butterflies and insects all kind of jumping out from the canvas in these three-dimensional textiles. There are also paintings and watercolours and drawings and lots of the little samplers and trials and all the work that goes into the major pieces.
I was brought up by my grandparents, and I was born during the war in Holland. My parents were off doing other things during the war, like the underground. My parents decided in 1951 to emigrate to Australia. It was a very unhappy time. I'd been so happy and spoilt, I guess, as an only child as well, in Holland by my grandparents, who were gorgeous people. And I came to Australia with two people who were very disciplinarian and very strict, and it was a whole change of my world. I really loved drawing, and my grandparents encouraged me to draw, and my father wouldn't let me draw, so I had to hide my drawings in my maths books. I saw Australia with different eyes, new fresh eyes, and from all the smallness and tightness and traditions of Europe, Australia was just so free, and we had all these gum trees and big open spaces. In our backyard there was this magnificent big gum tree. When I came home from school, I used to check out the gum tree and see how many bits of life I could find on the gum tree. And this is where I got my love for eaten out gum leaves. And so I'd look for what had eaten the leaf, and I'd find beetles and all sorts of little critters and put them in a matchbox and take them to bed with me at night and let them out the next morning. Eventually I started nursing. That's where I met my husband Philip. He was a young junior doctor and he wanted to be a country GP. And so we came to Sale because there was a vacancy here for him. There was a hospital in Sale. I could continue my nursing. I qualified as a theatre sister by then. And I went and had an interview with matron at Gippsland Base Hospital. She told me very flatly she would not employ doctors' wives because then her nurses wouldn't be free to discuss the doctors. And I was very upset. And anyway, my husband, who's just a gem, gorgeous man, said, "Well, you've always loved art. Why don't you give it a go?" Give it a go, I did. And here I am.
It is quite extraordinary what Annemieke has done in her career. I guess sort of starting out as more of a hobbyist in the early 70s and building up, I guess, a following for her work from the late 70s onwards, which just snowballed through the 80s and 90s. Annemieke, you know, it's interesting, there's a lot of kind of strikes against her according to the art world. She's a mother, a wildlife artist, a textile artist, a migrant artist. In the art world itself, I guess, which is dominated mostly by mid-career male artists. You know, Annemieke has been a real pioneer in a lot of ways.
Every conceivable way of handling textiles I think I've employed in these works. All types of fabrics and fibres, almost in a collage sort of way, which are painted, beaded, stitched, and machine embroidered. Insects are my major interest. If something inspires me, I get out every reference I possibly can. I get involved in the whole life cycle of it, and I use quite a powerful microscope so I can see every little nuance on an insect's back or wing and get that texture accurately. Nature is incredible, the absolute diversity and beauty of it. You'll see a shape in a shell, and you'll see the same shape on the skin of a lizard. It's like a master plan. Nature has used a good pattern and repeated it in different ways. It's incredible. I can't mimic nature by any means perfectly. I couldn't make a bird's nest, for instance. The way a bird makes a nest is just magnificent. But I do an interpretation of it the way I would like to see it.
Annemieke has such a strong following here in Gippsland. This is the first time that we have given the whole gallery, so all 5 spaces, to a single artist. It's significant also that, yes, she is obviously a woman artist, but also a craft artist, which I think is important because maybe something you wouldn't necessarily see at the state galleries or the national galleries. Craft has always been really important for artists in Gippsland because it's something that anyone can get involved in. But for many years, many decades, it's really been kind of derided by the art world, I guess, as something that's of lesser importance. So I think part of what we're trying to do with this exhibition is not just showcase what Annemieke does, but actually give craft a kind of new level of significance and meaning, and to say it is important too. It's no less an art than anything else, and it's great to see the gallery just filled with visitors.
I think the unusualness of the work is the big attraction, and I think realistic, yet with impressions rather than total realism, because I distort things and I change the colour of things. I'd like people to take on looking at wildlife, respecting wildlife, learning to understand and love wildlife and preserve it for the future.